what's up, Freedom fans? Welcome back inside Dennis Pelfrey's office, episode 3 of the Dennis Pelfrey Show. Dennis, obviously, very excited to be back in here, third visit. When are you going to kick me out of here? At what point are we going to coming to blows in the office?
I actually kind of enjoy it. Don't get a whole lot of company here, so my wife's back home in Texas, so I guess you're a familiar face. It kind of brings a little sense of realness to it instead of me just sitting in the office all day by myself.
Awesome. Well, it's great to make it a little less intimidating coming in here. I know after we bring box scores in, sometimes the post-game coaches meeting can be a little bit intimidating, but Dennis has given us great access all season. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. So a lot to talk about with the Freedom right now. We're 20 games into the 2019 season, and wouldn't you know it, it's Florence at the top of the West Division at 12-8. It's early in the year, but it has to feel good.
Yeah, it does. It feels really good, actually, with the way we've been playing. I don't know that we've actually tapped into our full capacity from a baseball standpoint. Obviously, with Andre Mercurio out of the lineup for the past week has been a tough one too. So we've managed to win some games and keep ourselves ahead of everybody else, so to speak, for right now. And I think the best Florence Freedom club is yet to be seen.
Well, there's no question that you already know this, but one thing the Freedom fans might not, that 12-8 record, 600 baseball, and the Freedom have still not lost 2 games in a row all season. You got to be proud about that as well.
Yeah, that's a big one. We actually talked about that last night. Coming into yesterday, or the day before yesterday, when we came back to win late, we were on the verge of winning or losing our second in a row, and found a way to make it happen. And last night we had a couple opportunities, just came up a little bit short. We had some questionable calls umpire-wise, and Evansville made some plays to put us away. But it's very good when a team doesn't lose 2 in a row. I think we're probably the only team in the league that hasn't lost 2 in a row yet, and several teams have lost 4 or 5 in a row. So when those things start to happen, it gets tough on a club where guys can start to panic a little bit. But our guys have shown that character and that resilience that we talked about from day one about what kind of club they actually are.
And it's certainly going to be something that's very imperative the Freedom keep this season, that resilience, because the West Division's not going anywhere. It is a 5-team race, legitimately. No real breathing room in it, but it's been the Freedom at the top of it for about the last week, and we like the way that sounds. So we did wrap up a couple of series that we'll talk more in-depthly about this week. A sweep, your first of the year for the Gateway Grizzlies at GCS Credit Union Ballpark before dropping the series at home with the Evansville Otters. We'll get to all that in due time, but one more broad kind of topic as we bring in episode 3 of the Dennis Pelfrey Show here. Your shortstop, Austin Wobrock, the reigning Frontier League Player of the Week. They will announce a new player in about a couple of hours. Usually after we wrap, they announce the new Player of the Week. So we got to get your comments on Austin and taking that honor. I know you've worked so much with him offensively. He has really made himself a complete player, and the league's taken notice. Yeah,
I think when we had the opportunity to get him from Washington in 2017, it was a no-brainer. He had played against us, and we didn't really see him a whole lot just because he was in the other division. And but what he does on the field defensively is spectacular, and I thought that we could help him offensively. And it's shown. I mean, he had his best year of his career last year with us offensively, and he's on pace to break that this year offensively. And obviously, the defense is good. He made a play last night that should be on SportsCenter.
You'll be seeing it
between the legs, flipped to second, and there's some controversy on whether the guy was out or safe at second, but it was a close bang play, and he got the out. But the play was spectacular. And he does those things on a nightly basis. He does those things in BP, which is something very rare these days about how much pride he takes in his defense and what he does on the field. Just in batting practice is amazing.
One thing that he also does extremely well is play defense, as you talked about. Some of the more highlight acrobatic plays that he makes at shortstop, we're all just kind of growing to expect. Are you ever surprised to see Austin make a play like that? It seems like he's getting better and better, but I'm sure you're probably not surprised.
No, I don't even think I even acknowledge him anymore. He comes in and everybody's like, "Oh, that was a great play this time." I'm like, guys, it's a routine play. I don't know what are we excited about, and. So I think it's become the norm on a nightly basis to see that guy do some of those things. So if you haven't got a chance to see him, you need to come out and watch, because he's even if we lose the game, the game's not exciting. He does something every night that'll turn your head.
No question. Hit .285 last year. It was his best career batting average for a season, but he's at .318 through the first month here in 2019. What are some of the adjustments that I know you've worked with Austin offensively that have helped him kind of have more continued success at the plate consistently?
I think it's just more of a focused approach. I think before, coming to us, it was more of a just get in there and hit. I think he was hitting in the 9-hole for Washington and just let him do his thing. And I see a lot more in Austin than most people, I'm sure. Offensively, the swing will play at any level. He had a nice workout, invite-only workout with the Red Sox this offseason, and they really like him. So it would not surprise me one bit if the Red Sox grab him during this season just because of what he can do. But it's the focused approach. I mean, choosing the right pitches to swing at. I think before he was much of a free swinger, and now he's not so much that. An idea of what he can do, and actually just being who he is. Too many times in this day and age, you hear a lot of kids will say, well, Scout told me I've got to hit for more power, I've got to do this. And, that might have been the mentality for Wobrock early on, is I got to hit home runs to get an opportunity. But he understands now that that's not what's going to get him the opportunity. So I think, the approach at the plate has vastly improved, and you see him do a lot of damage with 2 strikes, a lot of damage with 2 outs, because of that approach. And, every once in a while he'll falter from it a little bit, but he gets right back on it.
Well, I've been on record saying in the broadcast that Austin Wobrock, I think, is already defensively ready to be a major league shortstop as good as he is defensively. Offensively was the one area he needed to grow, and he certainly has. So exciting to know the Red Sox could be interested, and we'll wish the best for Austin moving forward. Let's dive into that Gateway Grizzlies series. It was the first series sweep of the season for the Freedom. Certainly not going to be the last sweep this season, but it had to feel good to get that first one under the belt.
Yeah, I mean, going into that series, Gateway had been playing well. We'd been playing well too. And, obviously a West Division opponent. So at the time, our division was very tight. I think a game or two from a win standpoint separated each team in our division. And we went in there and every game was a good game. It wasn't like we went in there and blew them out. But we prevailed on top all 3 times, and it turned out to be a nice one and a nice, I guess, a relief for some of the guys, especially without Mercurio in the lineup, being able to come through and win those games. It just shows that our guys, we don't have to rely on one guy and to do things. So, and I think it takes a lot of pressure off the other guys in the lineup when they don't have to be the guy. So I think we kind of solidified our identity in that series, and then came home. Obviously, we lost the series, but I think we figured out exactly what we're capable of doing in that series.
And I think we saw exactly what the Freedom are about. I know I texted you after Game 1 just riding a high of excitement after that 11-inning, 4-3 victory over the Grizzlies. It was a 2-0 game with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the top of the 9th inning. And the Freedom found a way to rally, tie the game. Isaac Bernard had the big hit there. Austin Wobrock, already heard his name once in this interview, got the big hit in extra innings. But that really did feel like Freedom baseball. You're on the ropes. You talked about Rocky Balboa making Rocky references. The Freedom kind of feel that way. Even when they're on the ropes, you got 1 strike left to get in a game and you're 2 runs ahead. It wasn't enough. Have to be proud of the guys for playing that kind of baseball. And how do you always seem to have a group of guys that does that?
It takes a lot of work. I think I'm gonna give our coaching staff a lot of credit here for finding those type of guys, those grinders, so to speak. But it's really just guys that are open to changing the way that they've done things in the past, and open to a little bit of a change from an approach standpoint. But like the Rocky Balboa thing, it's one of those things we talk about, just body blows, and all 15 rounds or whatever you want to call it, all 9 innings, and we want to make those guys work. If they're going to beat us, they're going to work to beat us, and that's kind of the idea behind it. And next man up, like you mentioned, Isaac Bernard with a big hit in that game, Wobrock with a big hit in that game. I think in Game 3 of that series, Caleb Lopez had the big game-winning hit. So guys drawing big walks to get on base to create those things, and those are the guys that kind of go unnoticed, like the offensive lineman in football. And we have an award each night when we win a game for the guy that does something that's unnoticed, or drawing the big 2-out walk, or coming in the 6th inning and shutting down the inning, as a reliever. So, those guys aren't going to get the save or get the win or get the game-winning hit and get the water cooler dumped on them, but those are the guys that make it happen for the other guys to be the heroes. So everybody has their role, and we talk about that, and we talk about movies a lot and talk about characters, and from a mental standpoint, having those roles, and you get to define your role every night. what your role in the movie is going to be every night. So our guys have bought into it, and they enjoy playing for us and enjoy playing for the Freedom. So I think that it all ties into it. So
I'll say this much: if one team does that, might be a special group of guys, a special locker room. I've been here 3 years now. All three of Dennis Pelfrey's teams have been that way. So absolutely, I think the coaching staff deserves a ton of credit for the Freedom always fighting and willing their way to success, even when they're getting shut out and down their last strike in game one of a big series that they end up sweeping. So we'll move to the next day. It was actually rained out. The middle game rained out with the Gateway Grizzlies, so the finale turned into a doubleheader day. One big thing for the Freedom, Scott Sebald got his first win on the bump. The lefty's been awesome all season. That's not indicative of a poor performance by any stretch. Just a couple tough luck, no decisions. But man, the big lefty looked good, and he finally got that win to show for him.
Yeah, he's been as advertised. Every time out, he's a guy that we went after hard. Once the Miami Marlins released him, he had thrown a couple games against us previously for the normal Corn Belters. He's a guy who we love the way he pitches, and he fits our scheme, so to speak, very well. So we were fortunate to get him, and he's been everything we could hope for. And we just haven't really given him the run support. But again, you go back to the game, he gets the win there. We gave him 2 runs early, but still it's not a huge run support. But every inning of that game, we had runners in scoring position. We just 1-2 out hit away from breaking the game wide open. So that game we felt in control the entire time. They hit a 2-run homer to tie it late, but we sent him back out, kept him out there because he was throwing so well, and we ended up scoring to win. So it was a great night for him. Probably to get a little monkey off his back, so to speak. But he's a guy that's going to be the same guy every time out, and he's going to give us a chance to win every time out.
You already mentioned Caleb Lopez. He was the hero that night. It looked like maybe Scott was going to have to wait another start to get a decision because the game was tied up at 2 late before he came back out, dealt, and Caleb Lopez got that game-winning hit that you'd already mentioned. Let's take a second to talk about Caleb. He's in his second year for you here with the Freedom, a guy that played in the Cardinals organization. Just seems like one of those true grit type guys, easy to follow, great clubhouse guy. He fits all the Dennis Pelfrey molds as far as what he brings to the clubhouse. On the field, obviously, he's stellar as well, but I'll let you talk about him. You know him better than I do. What Caleb Lopez brings to this team. I know he's had a lot of strong contact, not a lot of success early at the plate because strong contact's been right at people, but seems like he brings it every day, and the sky's the limit with Caleb.
Caleb is he's a special individual. He reminds me a lot of myself as a player, of what he's capable of doing, because he's got some power. He can hit oppo homers. Against Evansville, he had one robbed oppo, but he does a lot of the things the right way, and he's bought in on the approach, and I think that kind of changed him a little bit to become the player that he is now, where he's a better guy now. I think if he's in the Cardinals system with what he's doing right now, he would be excelling in the Cardinals organization. But the big thing about Caleb Lopez, he's like a father figure to some of these guys in here. He is actually a father.
Right.
He has a couple kids, but dealing with Austin Wobrock and some of these other guys we have, he's kind of the dad of the group, and he does so much more off the field for us from a clubhouse standpoint and a leadership role than we could ever ask. So that's the biggest thing that Caleb brings to the table. And obviously on the field he's very good. He can play short, second, third, hitting the 3-hole, hitting the 5-hole, and big RBI opportunities and come through virtually every time. So he does great for us on the field. We never have to worry about him being prepared or being ready. But off the field, in the clubhouse and on the road trips and things like that, I know that I can trust him to kind of take care of our guys and make sure we're doing the things we need to be doing. And
his wife and kids are always at the game as well. So just really easy guy to root for, Caleb Lopez. You're the GOAT. We'll move on now to the Evansville Otters series. We come back home to UC Health Stadium. The Freedom are 4-2-1 in series this season. The only team to take a series from the Freedom is Evansville. They've now done it twice. What is it about the Evansville Otters that's so difficult to match up with? I know they've played just a couple of good series, but what is it that they do the absolute best if you had to pick one thing?
I think that the absolute best thing that they do is they prepare. They're going to be prepared. They're a lot like us in the sense where they have some coaches on their staff that are workers, like I like to call them. They're going to get the work in. They're going to make sure the players are prepared and ready to go. So that's the best thing that they do. Obviously they've beaten us now twice in 2 series. They're going to be tough. I mean, they're always good. And it would not, I put them right there with River City as far as a chance for who's going to play us in the championship, it's going to be either Evansville or River City at this point from what we've seen. Obviously, there's a couple teams we haven't seen yet in the league, but I still feel very good about how we match up against them. We just had, like I said, a couple unlucky breaks, and if a couple things go our way, then we're 5-1 against them. So
right.
I'm not real worried or concerned about that, so to speak. Now, it does start to come into play when we start talking about tiebreakers and things like that. So if the division keeps going the way it's going throughout the season, how it's so tight, that's going to be a huge advantage for Evansville over us right now. So the next two series we play them, which is not till like the end of July and then like maybe the end of August, they're going to be very big. So it's going to be a little different look for us too. Obviously, not having Mercurio in there again, I keep mentioning the name, could have been a factor for us losing that series as well. But again, if somebody's out of the game, we have to rely on somebody else to step up. So
Absolutely. Another thing about Evansville and the Freedom in this series, it was another well-contested, low-scoring type series. And if you look at the Evansville Otters, something that they do tremendously well is everything offensively. Number one in batting average, number one in runs, you name it, they're number one in it. But it seems like when they line up with you guys, that's not exactly the case. I thought that certainly boded well for you guys in this series to get that great offense they have, bring them down a couple of rungs, and give yourself a chance to win some low-scoring games late. You had to be proud about the way you pitched that series, even though the success didn't follow in terms of the series victory. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Brian White, our pitching coach, does a fantastic job with these guys and puts together a plan on how we're going to attack their hitters. And Ryan Long for them is arguably the best hitter in our league, and our guys shut him down for the series, which was fantastic. Now, obviously, we got to take care of some other guys too, and again, it goes back to somebody else stepping up, and they did that for Evansville. But very pleased with the pitching staff and what they accomplished this series. Other than a 2-run homer late in Game 2, everything was very close. So obviously, like I said, it goes back to a break here and there, and we sweep the series. You know what I mean? So, like I said, it's as long as we continue to do what we're doing. At the end of the day, when the dust settles, we'll find out who's on top. And right now, I feel like our club is still the best team in the league.
And one pitcher that has been really sensational every time he's taken the mound for the Freedom has been Frank Valentino. Hasn't gotten some success to show for it the last couple of starts. He's 1-2 on the season, but Frank is getting better and better every start. And you talked a little bit in episode 1 of the Dennis Pelfrey Show, kind of about the deep background he has, kind of with Brian White in the last couple of years, how much he's worked. If you don't mind just kind of sharing that story with the audience, kind of go a little bit deeper into where you found Frank, kind of how you've helped groom him, and now back-to-back starts, matching a season high in strikeouts with nine whiffs. He seems to be a dominant power-type pitcher, having a lot of success, holding teams down to low-scoring numbers.
Yeah, Frank's he's a special individual. His stuff is arguably one of the best in the league as far as what he can bring to the table. Really, it came down to command, and we've seen him for a few years now, and Brian's got the chance to work with him, not on a everyday basis, right in front of each other, but through videos and text messages and emails and things like that, just to kind of get him prepared. We've always liked the kid. The guy's he's a great guy, and we root for the guy. But it just never was really a fit for us. But he spent about a month with Brian in Florida this year, and we really got to a good point with him as far as what we felt he could accomplish in our league. And so then we decided to grab him and sign him. And we've made a couple changes since he's been here, and I think that you can see, as much as me, each start out he's gotten better and better and better. And that's twice he's thrown against Evansville, and he's dominated that lineup twice, and so it's very very exciting to see what he can do. He's a guy too that if he keeps getting better and doing the things that he's doing, we don't foresee him being with us very long, because he's got a big league body and he's got big league stuff. So there's going to be some affiliated teams taking notice of him very quickly.
I would absolutely believe that as well. So we'll shift gears now, looking ahead. Get the Windy City ThunderBolts coming to town starting on Wednesday, a double dip here at UC Health Stadium. Windy City is always a team that can pitch it well. What's kind of the outside looking in scouting report on the ThunderBolts? An East Division team, might not know them as well as teams in the West, obviously, but what do you have on them here through the first 20 games of the season?
It's going to be interesting. They got a new manager in there, so obviously a little bit of a new culture, brought to the table. So we'll kind of see, in the game one, we're going to try to feel them out a little bit and see kind of how they're going to play a game, and try to expose some of the things that we think we can take advantage of based upon their numbers. They started off pretty hot, or actually, they started off pretty good as far as a pitching staff standpoint, very hot. They've already had a guy picked up by an affiliated organization, one of their starters who was, dominating our league at the time. So, it's kind of a flip of a coin trying to figure out what we're going to expect. I think offensively they're going to be very similar to what they have been in the past, and which is not a bad thing for the park they play in and the division they play in. Their team should be really built around defense and pitching. So the offense, just needs to score a few runs for them because their pitching staff's going to be, at the top of the league, I'm sure. So basically, when they come to our park, we can kind of try to see what is going to expose them and things like that. So very, very early, you're going to see us do some things that we normally don't do or we haven't done yet, just to kind of see if they can defend it, see how they play it, and then try to take advantage from there.
Okay, so exciting. A couple of new things, new wrinkles maybe in the fold for Wednesday. If there's one thing that, just looking at it from point blank, saying if we do this really well in this series with the Windy City ThunderBolts, we'll be successful, what would that one thing be that you want to see your guys do that maybe they haven't shown you as much through the first 20 games, or that you really want to see an improvement from in this series?
I think if we can start turning some more double plays. I think that's the one that's been the most perplexing to me, is we haven't turned the double play, and our defense in the infield is spectacular. Our pitching staff will get ground balls, and there's been, I don't know, I think the number as of yesterday was I think 8 double plays that we should have turned that we haven't. If we do that, then I think we're leading the league in turning double plays. So it's just we're just a little off there, so to speak. So it's kind of like an orchestra. We got to practice, and then when the final show shows up, it's going to be perfect. So I think that's kind of what we continue to keep doing, keep talking about. So if we can turn the double play, we'll do pretty well in this series, I think. You
heard it there first. That is fifth-year Freedom manager Dennis Pelfrey. This is his show, the Dennis Pelfrey Show. It airs every Monday around 5, 6 o'clock. Social media, check it. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. It'll be posted to all 3 outlets. Dennis, can't thank you enough again for the access in the office, and always love going behind the curtain with you.
Not a problem. We'll see you next Monday.
Thank you very much.